Hi everyone, Sahil Bora here from C++BetterExplained.com, and in today's video we're going to be talking about code documentation in all areas of programming. Not just in C++, but in all areas such as C#, Java, Python, and etc. So why is code documentation important? Well, the thing is with code documentation is what allows you to communicate with other members on a software development team. Because if you don't have code documentation in your software and what you have implemented in your project is very complicated, it can be very difficult to understand what you were trying to achieve and how you've implemented your solution. Because without code documentation, it makes everything 10 times harder to understand and to put the pieces together. And also with code documentation as well, let's say for example that you're working on a project for about a month and you had to leave it aside and you didn't leave any comments about it, and you come back to it 6 months later and you start looking at the IDE again and you start looking at the code and you completely forgot what you were trying to implement. Because without having the code documentation, you forgot what you were trying to implement, and now you have to try and remember from scratch what you were trying to do. But you can make things a lot easier for yourself if you just have the comments there, right? Just documenting what you were trying to do and how it's implemented. It saves so much time and frustration by just having those comments there. Another scenario that we can also have is that, like, say for example, you had somebody else on your team write a specific module, but he's gone on holidays for a month, and you only just realize that you need his module, but you're not sure how it works because there's no comments in there, and he's gone on holidays and you can't contact him. It just becomes a nightmare. The thing that would make the difference is just by having some comments explaining what he was trying to implement in that complex solution. It just makes the world of difference. One thing I like to tell beginners and intermediate programmers is that you want to document your code as if the person looking at your code knows where you live and is going to come door knocking at your house every single day with a knife in his hands, interrogating you everything in your solution. So it's better to have at least some form of documentation in your programs, even if it's just a basic simple program that somebody else is going to use. Because when it comes to larger complex software programs with projects involving at least over 10,000 lines plus, that's when it gets complicated. And when you're working with other developers and you're working with large software systems that have at least 10,000 lines, code documentation literally makes all the difference. Now that doesn't mean you have to comment the most basic shit. Like, say for example, we've got an example here saying like x is equal to x plus 3. Like I've got this example here. You don't need to do that. But let's say, for example, you were trying to compute like a mathematical equation, like in this example here. Something like this would be a lot better to document, because something like this would be a lot harder to understand 6 months later, or if someone isn't really like good at math, by just having comments there, it will just make the world of difference. So that's my take on code documentation, on why it's useful and why we need them in our software projects. And if you're even a complete beginner to developing software on your own, I highly recommend that you guys understand the requirements and the need for code documentation in our programs, and to have the foundation and the practice to implement it in your programs. So that's all I wanted to say about code documentation today. If you found this video helpful, what I want you guys to do is to smash the thumbs up button down below, and don't forget to click on the red button down below to subscribe to the latest videos of the C++ Better Explained YouTube channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and all that, and I look forward to speaking to you again.